I'm your host, Loren Meadows of GatorBaitMedia.com with the best shoe game in the Gator media. With less than 2 weeks before the Gators get it cracking, we go inside the program with Graham Hall of Swamp 247. Graham will give us some injury updates and decipher what we heard and didn't hear from Billy Napier in his first post-camp presser. Rob Browne of SEC Sidelines is always in the building to talk the Big Ten's ploy to turn the CFP into March Madness and what it could mean for the SEC. Also, what makes a good receiver? The Gators have plenty, and Billy Napier broke it down for us on Monday. Finally, my man Joe, the animal Fulford of Half Full and a Cup of Joe, will let us know what those north of the Mason-Dixon line think of the Gators and their prospects this season. Kicks of the Week is in the building, as well as Hyper Have At It, as we inch closer and closer to kickoff. The Sidelines live team would like to thank our sponsors, Meldon Law and Titan MRI. Subscribe to the Lowdown with Loren Meadows on YouTube and Facebook, as well as our partner shows on the Sidelines Live Network, including The Buddy Martin Show. Subscribe to GatorBaitMedia.com, Gatorbait Magazine, and follow yours truly on Instagram, Ohio Gator at Ohio Gator for Life, and X at Real Ohio Gator. Let's get to it. Before we get started, I want to send a shout out to our lady softball players, some of them alumni. Skylar Wallace and Amanda Lorenz were members of the gold medal World Cup team that took out Chinese Taipei in the gold medal game. And tonight we have Kendra Falby, who is the captain of the AUSL team. Did a great job of putting her team together. If you can catch them on ESPN2 and see how that's going as well. So we'll be joined shortly by Graham Hall, who will be joining us soon to talk about what's going on with the Gators. We want your thoughts, see how things are going, and just basically answer any questions you may not have till we get to Graham Hall. So just waiting on Graham to join us. But hope you guys are doing well out there. Shoot me your questions. We were able to catch a little whiff of practice before things are going well. Billy Napier talked about DJ Lagway, participated in his first, what you might call, full team activities, the most that he had participated basically all off season. And he talked about guys like Vernell Browne III, who's really rounded in his shape as a young guy. Talked about Michael Caraway at the safety position, as well as Lagonza Hayward, guys that have really took the opportunity with some injuries and things like that to step up for the Gators. So look forward to those young men, definitely jumping into the fold, being ready to go, and really looking for their opportunity. He talked about, how detailed a guy like Vernell Browne is and what those details can lead to as a receiver. Napier coached a lot of great guys at Clemson as well as Alabama. So we'll talk about some of the things that he broke down that kind of makes one a great receiver. So, we'll definitely get into that with Rob.
Just like that, I was coming in to say hi, and Mr. Graham Hall has joined us, which is the proper thing.
Appreciate it. Yeah, he right on time. I told him 9:05, and there he is, my man.
What's up, guys?
Swamp 247.
I'm in to say hi anyway. What's up, Graham Hall?
Welcome in, Graham. How you doing, Graham?
Good to be here, man. It's been a long time.
Man, long time coming. Yeah, finally got you. You got married this summer. And honeymoon and all that. Where'd you guys go?
We got married back in January, actually.
Okay, excuse me. Honeymoon in
July. We went to Southern Ireland for 10 days. Flew into Dublin, went to Cork.
Okay.
Came back to a small town called Cove. Went to Dingle, Galway. Came back. Perfect amount of time. It was awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and shout out to Michelle Piazza. I think that's how you say it. Yeah, I'm always showing love to the women's sports. So shout out to my lady Gators basketball team as well. But and it's funny, Ireland's going to take center stage. And I guess what used to be called week 0, we got the Iowa State Cyclones facing off the Kansas State Wildcats, I guess, in the first, what you might call, marquee game of the season. So Ireland will be center stage. What are you thinking about that? Those teams playing in Ireland that first week. It used to be kind of teams with an Irish theme. I think they did like Notre Dame and Boston College, but now they're just kind of grabbing. I don't think either Kansas State nor Iowa have a connection to Ireland, but yet and still they'll be making their way to Dublin to play that game this weekend. So did you know anything connection about that, Graham? Or
I don't know if there's a connection. I think it's awesome for fans to have a reason to go over there and go to another country and see their teams play on a neutral site that is completely neutral for both teams. I think it's awesome. When I was there, they have a sport called hurling that you got to look it up. It's going to take me too long to describe it, but it's basically played with these little paddles, and they've got soccer goals and field goals. It's their most popular sport there. So it was cool for me to see that, 6 weeks ago, and now they're going to get to see a American college football game. But my main thoughts are, man, that I'm just glad that football is back. Preseason content, it kind of gets a little bit stale after a while. We got to do it. We have to talk about the team. There's, a lot of guys to talk about on this Florida team, especially. And, you want to tell their stories, but you get to this close to the season, people are just kind of anxious, ready for the games to get here. And I'm totally right there with them. I'm just ready for college football to be here. And it's cool that it's 4 days away.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the Gators are less than 2 weeks away. And I'm kind of like Marshawn Lynch, man. Talking season is always one thing, but I'm about that business. And so, I love everybody talking about recruiting. I know you have to follow that and stay on top of that from time to time, but it's those 12 Saturdays. You get those 12 auditions, so to speak, to prove what you got. And, I always say, man, football is a beautiful game. I say it's a game of kings played by savages, and it's always cool to see somebody, you try to break a man's will 60 to 70 times a game and let the best man win, and that's why they shake hands at the end. But this Gator team, definitely, did a great job in the offseason. I think, those last 4 games, we were all there to kind of witness it, kind of take it all in, and kind of catapulted themselves into this offseason where I think they finally started to garner some attention, national attention. We'll talk to Joe Fulford later in the show about, maybe what is the national tale. But I did an article in Gator Bait this past weekend, and I basically looked at, with 2 weeks to go, there's some things that I think the Gators need to shore up, and having you on the show, you can kind of even enhance maybe what I was thinking. And one of them was not only DJ Lagway, but to get everyone not named DJ Lagway healthy as well. They kind of had to tune up against Long Island. I think the South Florida game could be a little tougher than people are giving it credit for. But what are you hearing about guys like Eugene Wilson, Dallas Wilson, LJ McCray, Pup Howard? Where are they in their, what Billy Napier calls, return to play protocols, and could they be available for that first game against Long Island?
Yeah, I think it varies depending on who it is. I think that one of the fortunate things about the schedule is you're not opening with a team like Miami, so there's no real rush necessarily right now to get these guys fully healthy, and they're allowed to take a little bit more of a cautious approach than they would take if they were facing a Power 4 opponent. I think that makes it a little bit difficult to put some timelines on, because a lot of the guys you just mentioned, from DJ Lagway, Eugene Wilson, Grayson Howard, Dijon Johnson, I'll throw in there as well, Aaron Gates, those are guys that have been dealing with injuries honestly throughout 2025, not just even in fall camp. They were either limited in spring camp or they were going through a modified participation period in practice. So I think that, no offense to the Sharks whatsoever, but I think that you're afforded to any of those guys I just mentioned being extra cautious for week 1. I think that is the narrative that makes the most sense. It makes the most sense for Florida in terms of protecting guys that you're going to need throughout those 12 games that you mentioned, that 12 Saturdays, because the competition is going to get noticeably tougher after the first week, and especially after the second week as well, having to go on the road to LSU and play a night game, and then take on Miami down in South Florida, and host Texas, go to Texas A&M. The 4 games after these first 2 weeks of the schedule for Florida are much more difficult. So I think you have a little bit of leeway there, that if there's anything lingering with, say, Howard or, Aaron Gates coming back from that torn ACL, Eugene Wilson, a guy who you want to make sure that he's available as much as possible. In a perfect world, you get him for all 12 games, but this is a physical sport. Guys are going to get injured, and having them available for the games that you're going to need all hands on deck, I think is going to make the most sense for Florida to choose to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't see a significant number of starters for the Gators in week one. I even sometimes get cautious saying that, because then some people are going to be like, well, then why are we going to tune in? It's college football. You should tune in no matter what in that, regard. But I do think that the guys we just mentioned, especially DJ Lagway, Grayson Howard, I think the best plan, and I'm no coach, obviously, so this is above my pay grade, would be to maybe play them a couple series against the Sharks so they get back in the flow and they can actually go out there and hit someone and make plays against someone that's not, in their own locker room. I think that makes a ton of sense, and then get them out as quick as possible and give the backups a chance to get in, not just at quarterback, but offensive line, running back, get the freshmen in there, play some of the seldom used wide receivers who may not have as many opportunities down the stretch. Get the second and third string guys, especially the freshmen who you may end up redshirting. This is probably the best chance to play the guys who are poised to redshirt, from the offensive linemen they added to guys in the secondary. Even get them in the game, get them multiple series, let them get the experience so that they can develop that valuable, unreplicated in-game experience. And you can build depth, which is what Billy Napier has been mentioning repeatedly throughout fall camp, is the current objective for this team. They feel really, really good about the ones, but guys go down, and you got to get the second string and third string guys ready in case some unfortunate ailment strikes. And that should be the objective for not just the LIU game, but for USF as well. Even though I agree with you, I think USF, a lot of people are just chalking it up to a surefire victory. I like that USF team. I think Alex Galesh is a good coach. I don't think you can take it for granted. Yes, I, of course, think Florida playing at home with everyone that they have is going to be a double-digit favorite in that game, but it's not going to be a cakewalk in any sense. That's going to be your first real tune-up and a chance to put mistakes on film that maybe aren't going to cost you in the win-loss column, but you can build on those things, correct them before you got to go on the road to Baton Rouge and take on the Tigers.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that LSU game rings loud as one of the top matchups, to start the season. And, you mentioned, like you said, gaining depth, getting everybody ready. A lot of people talk about the offense, but a defense that improved over everybody talks about the last 4 games, but really over the last 6 to 7 games when they returned from Starkville, I think they started to kind of feel themselves a little bit, start to communicate a little better. And now it's a defense, one voice, one sound. Ron Roberts kind of is the primary play caller on defense. I think they now know what they want to be, have an identity. But does that seem to be cleaned up now, Graham, from kind of what looked to be a lot of disjointed movements? I always say you got to play defense on a string, but now they look like they're playing a little bit together. Has it been rounded into form and solidified as, this is the way we want to play defense, and Ron Roberts is at the head of that snake, so to speak?
Yeah, I think last year was a case of practices getting more competitive, guys having their backs against the wall, but sometimes, less is more in a sense. And I think that Florida simplified some things from a schematic standpoint last season and just made it so that guys were playing confidently from practice through walkthroughs and into the game. They knew their assignments. And when you play kind of without having to think and hesitate, and you play without fear in a sense, you really can be a lot better of a player. And I think that's a lot what you saw last season. And you also saw guys play with more consistency. And, from Caleb Banks to a lot of guys was in the front 7, they were just playing some of their most consistent football in November, which, the flip side of that is it left a lot of people sitting there shaking their heads being like, man, if we could have just played this way at the beginning of the season, what could have been, right? Mm-hmm. And, you can't get any games back, and you can't play the what if game in college football. You get 60 minutes and the result is the result. And I think that for Florida, they kind of left a bad taste in their mouth, so to speak, that 4-game win streak in a sense, because they did feel like they had let some opportunities pass them by. And so I think that is fueling this team going into it as well. And if they play with that edge, they're out to prove it to the world mindset, I think they're going to be better than what they were last season from the jump, especially. But I think you're going to see improved play throughout the year, not just in the final half of the season here. And, they have all the pieces to do it. But I thought it was really interesting the other day that Billy Napier was quite honest last night, actually, when he said, we haven't played championship defense during my time in Gainesville. We have to do that, or else every weapon that we have on offense, the 4 or 5 starters returning on the offensive line, the talent that we have at tight end, the skill positions, all of it, the continuity and the coaching staff, it may not matter if, we put up 45 points and the other team puts up 48. We have to be out there stopping the other team. And everything we've heard throughout fall camp is that the defense has looked a little bit better than the offense has so far. But a lot of that is explainable for Florida because, like we just mentioned, with the unavailable or modified players, you got, Lagway, who's been a very limited participant throughout much of fall camp, missed the first stretch. Eugene Wilson, Aiden Mizell were limited at times. Moise Tenkara was limited at times. You're now without Dallas Wilson as well. So it would make sense that Florida's defense is ahead right now. So I don't think we'll really have a good idea of how good they can be I hate to keep going back to it, until that LSU game. You go into the road in a hostile environment. Everyone's cheering against you. Florida also hasn't been fantastic in road games in the Billy Napier era. They have to change that. You can't just play well at home in this league, or otherwise you're going to be sitting here at the end of the year and be 7-5.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that, and it's funny. I think that's, and I've mentioned it, but you bring up a great point. Getting this team prepared to play on the road. And, Shane mentioned it on Buddy's show last night. Once you get into conference play, you don't get to travel as many people as well. So looking to maybe use the first 2 games to finalize rotations. In camp, everybody gets a turn. You see who's out there. You see who wants to take advantage. But would you say that in these next 2 weeks, yes, it's a Long Island, the Sharks, that's the Long Island University, the artist formerly known as CW Post, by the way, for those are like, I didn't even know Long Island had football. Well, CW Post has had football for a while, but I think it's, and you could tell me yes or no, I think it's very important that they start to hone in on the rotations, really get those in place. So by the time you head on the plane to go down to the bayou, you have defined roles and everybody knows what's expected of them when, and you get ready to play football.
Yeah, I think it's a big part of it. I think that when you have depth and you feel good about everyone, you're going to have to worry less about who you travel, right? I think that for Napier as well, the expectation setting for guys is a pretty fascinating point of what he has been doing the last couple of years. Let's even go back to last year. The SEC provides availability reports, and going into SEC games, you knew who would be either limited or game time decision, whatever it was. But at the same time, Florida stopped putting out depth charts. And the reason for that was because a lot of times guys were finding out they're standing through the depth chart, and you want everyone to be, in theory, preparing as if they're going to go out in each game and play a big role, whether it's 5 snaps, 20 snaps, 60 snaps, whatever it is. You want them going into that game feeling as if they're competing for reps. And if it doesn't happen that game, maybe it's going to happen next week if you keep improving. It's a motivational tool, absolutely. So I think that's a fascinating part of it as well. And it's not just solely the first string guys. There are a couple spots that have been in contention for Florida's starting unit, but it's more so the guys who are going to be rotated in, guys on the interior of the defensive line, where you have some freshmen pushing there. You have guys like Brenden Bett, Brian Taylor Jr., Tarvarius Browne, guys who are looking to secure playing time for themselves, where a guy like that could see themselves listed 3rd or, even 2nd, 4th on the depth chart, whatever it is, and that can impact their mindset. And so, as this is a program that right now is talking about blocking out the outside noise. And one of the last things they want to do is provide that outside noise, where people in the 72 hours before the game are speculating on, oh, why is this guy here on the depth chart? Does this mean so-and-so isn't doing so well? Does this mean this guy is doing a lot better than him? All the speculating that you see with the depth chart, a lot of that stuff is, in their opinion, noise. As media and fans, it helps us prepare and it helps us set expectations and go into the game, have a sense of who's going to play the most. But when in terms of a team's competitive stature and their competitive chances, the way the Florida program sees that stuff is that, if anything, it's not helping, and it potentially could hinder a young guy who is feeling like they're doing everything right that they can and isn't getting on the field. So you don't want to have that impacting their confidence, their focus, their mentality, whatever it is. And so I do think that it's going to be pretty interesting that we're going to enter the season. With all that said, I know that was a little bit of a ramble, but with all that said, we're going to enter the season that we're not going to be able to take too much away, in my opinion, from the rotations, from the quote unquote depth chart, the snap counts even, because the first 2 weeks you're going to be playing, in my opinion, a lot of the younger guys, second, third string guys. So we're really not going to know some of the standings and where the rotations are going to be until they go into LSU. So that's a part of a fascinating thing, in my opinion, heading into this college football season, is that as close as the season is, 11 days away, we aren't going to know how good Florida really is. And we still may not know if they come out and, lay an egg in Baton Rouge, knock on wood. We're still not going to have a sense until September 13th. I hate to be a downer in a sense when we're talking about college football being back, but it's not until that first game of SEC play against LSU where we're going to really know, I think, a lot of where these rotations and the battles have fallen.
Wow, yeah. I mean, I think you're right. And one battle I want to talk about, and we do a little thing on here. Your buddy Zach has played a few times. We call it hype or have at it. And hype is basically, I'm not messing with it. It's just whatever. And have at it means, yeah, that could really happen. And it kind of leads us to the depth and rotation. And I want to talk about what you think about the backup quarterback. So I'm going to ask a question and you can fill in the blanks with kind of what you think may happen depending on your answer. So you got 12 games. DJ Lagway has dealt with some injuries. Hyper have at it. DJ Lagway starts and quote unquote finishes all 12 ball games this year. And if it's hype, then who do you think right now has the driver's seat to run out should Lagway not be able to go?
Yeah, I think it's hype. I think that Florida shouldn't need to play him. Maybe he starts against LIU, plays a couple series.
That's what I mean. If healthy, you think he'll make it all 12 games?
If healthy, I think he'll make it all 12 games. Now, do I think that Florida needs to play him in all 12? No. But to answer the question, who I think runs out there, that question, if you had asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said without a doubt Aiden Warner. And everything I've still heard tracks that Aiden Warner is the guy who goes out there. If Lagway goes down, or if they're resting him for precautionary reasons, or Florida's up 40, in the second half, I think you see Aiden Warner. But Harrison Bailey has made some plays in fall camp. He's looked better than he did in the spring. They feel more confident in, if they were to have to play Bailey, that he'd be able to go out there and do the job. He has a good deep ball. He has, good knowledge of the game, high football IQ, a guy who's just gotten more and more comfortable since he's been here and really has kind of opened up that quarterback battle at the number 2 spot a little bit more. But then Tramel Jones is also a fascinating thing. If it's against Long Island in theory, and Lagway comes out midway through the first quarter to rest the rest of the game, I think it makes a lot of sense to put Tramel Jones in, because it's a situation where he has to maybe play with a little bit of weight. If it's just a 1-score or even a 2-score game, where he's going to have to make correct decisions to not have an errant turnover and make the most of his reps in a situation where it may not impact the outcome of the game, right? So, and I think there's also the interesting argument of, if Lagway goes down for an extended period of time, who is the closest in terms of Lagway's skill set where you're not altering the offense too much? I mean, is Tramel Jones close enough where you feel comfortable calling everything the same for a freshman quarterback? I don't know. I actually would be surprised if that were the case, because it would be very impressive and indicative of more progress from Tramel Jones than I think many would have even expected out of him. 8 months removed from high school ball, coming off an injury that impacted him for the first 2 months in Gainesville. I mean, if he's able to go out there and they feel comfortable calling everything for him rather than a simplified playbook that is more conducive to what you should be expecting out of a freshman, not named DJ Lagway, then I would be a little bit surprised by that. But a guy who I think makes a ton of sense from a skill standpoint to come out there against LIU, because those reps are going to help him maybe more than they would help a guy, especially help a guy like Harrison Bailey, who's in his last year of college football and is kind of just like your Band-Aid in a sense, where you feel good about him, but you're not necessarily developing him long-term. So if you're putting a quarterback into a game that feels like a guaranteed win by 35 points or more, why not go to the freshman, allow him to make some mistakes where it's not going to kill his confidence, where he's going to be able to rebound and have a better chance, gets in the first game of his college career, learns, goes through, puts mistakes on film that he can correct in practice on Monday. That makes a ton of sense to me. But right now, I would probably, if they were making a depth chart for quarterbacks, I'd go Lagway, Aiden Warner, Harrison Bailey, really, really close to him right there, and then Tramel Jones.
Okay. I mean, that's great. That's kind of what we've heard. You know, you could flip-flop Warner, Bailey, but obviously the health of DJ Lagway will be a constant concern throughout the season. But I think from what I've seen, Warner has improved. And like you said, Harrison Bailey brings, veteran leadership, been the MVP of a bowl game, played very well his last full game. And then you got Tramel Jones, who probably has the highest ceiling of the three behind Lagway. So, definitely we'll be interested to see how that shakes out during the season. I know you got to go, Graham. I appreciate you coming on, giving us your time. I know people can read you in Swamp 247. What do you got? What are you working on, for the rest of the week, and tell people where they can read you and what they can do to get in depth. I know you guys have some insider information that you could subscribe to as well.
Yeah, I would love to have you guys join the part of the community. It'd be fantastic to have you. Absolutely. It's going to be a fun football season. We got a lot of more preseason content coming, projected depth charts for offense and defense, impact players, guys who I think are poised for a breakout, freshmen that I think will contribute at the highest rate. A lot of stuff coming, a couple more features as well that we're working on this week before we get into game week next week. We're still running a 50% off offer for an annual subscription for the next 8 days. So take advantage of that. If you're not a part after, when it renews, you get Paramount Plus. Really, really good deal. Would love to have you. Come find me on X, Twitter, at Graham Hall. And this has been a great time, man. We got to do it again soon.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And welcome to the club, man. It's 16 years and counting for me. And so welcome to the club. Let me know if you need any marriage advice. But
I got you, man. Appreciate
great
it.
to see you, man. Appreciate it. I'll see you around for sure.
I'll take care out there.
All right. Graham Hall 247. Great having him on. And we're going to bring in Rob Browne next. But before we do, we're going to talk about Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators, proven and skilled lawyer since 1971. The Gator community, as well as us at GatorBaitMedia.com, really appreciate all that Meldon Law has done for us. It's about to be ticket season. They'll have some giveaways. I think they do everything from football tickets to soccer, a lot of different experiences. My wife and I got to present the game ball for Texas in basketball. So just a lot of cool experiences. And then when it comes to the law, they're just the greatest people to use as a resource. If they can't help you, then they will be able to point you in the right direction to someone who will. Really appreciate the Meldon Law family for all they do for the Gainesville community, surrounding areas. They also have an office in Ocala, as well as Lake City and other surrounding areas. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. We won't back down. And with that, we bring in my man from SEC Sidelines there, Rob Browne. How you doing, Rob?
Man, you can't get any better than this right now. We're getting close to the season.
Yes, sir.
Listening to Graham talk about the Gators, it's just, once the games start, we're not going to have to hear about, DJ's injuries or anything like that. Everybody, everybody plays hurt. It's a big physical game.
Mm-hmm.
You buy a new car, you drive it off the lot, look at it 6 months or a year later, it's got nicks and dings and bruises.
Yes,
and if
sir.
you buy a pickup truck, the minute you do, everybody in the world knows you've got one, and suddenly you're a mover.
Oh, yeah, you helping everybody move into the dorms. You're doing everything, no doubt. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. So Rob, you follow the SEC, but you also have you have a sense of just the college football picture as a whole. And I know you told me you're gonna have the head of the college football playoff on, I think tomorrow or in a few days.
Thursday. Yeah,
Thursday
morning
yeah.
at 9:30 Eastern.
Yeah, check them
Rich
out
Clark.
for sure.
Yeah,
And but this whole I mean, what's going on with this college football playoff, and what is the Big Ten? I mean, what is this? I mean, 20 something teams. I mean, come on, man. I mean, I get it, but it's not March Madness. I mean, what is the rationale with this? Is this a play to stay relevant as the SEC continues to dominate the headlines and all the big news? Or I mean, is there something to this that I'm maybe not seeing that could be good for the game?
Well, Tony Barnhart spoke to the Touchdown Club in Memphis last night. And afterwards, a group of us hung out in the lobby at the East Memphis Hilton. And I asked about Petiti, the head of the Big Ten. He's a media guy. He's an entertainment guy. I think he's just throwing spit against the wall and seeing what sticks. Got to think of, and I want to make sure people know this. When we go after the Big Ten, we're not attacking everybody that lives in the Midwest. We ain't attacking Ohio State.
I'm from the Midwest.
I know. And I love Ohio. I think Ohio's no different than Alabama and Georgia and Florida. I mean, they are God-fearing America, red-blooded patriots, and they play some badass football. But the commissioner is out of touch. And, we're going to go to 12-16. Let's just watch each time we make a climb up the ladder that we don't dilute the product. Okay. Basketball, you got 357 schools that can make the big dance in March Madness. I don't know what it is about basketball, but growing up, I think you would agree, some of my greatest memories are watching Big Monday with the Big 12 and the Big East, but the Cat House at Villanova and Seton Hall and Providence, it is just cool. I mean, and now basketball is getting to be bigger in the South. But I think the Big Ten is just they want to force the SEC to that ninth game. And it ain't going to be the Big Ten that forces the SEC to the ninth game. It's going to be preserving rivalries, and you get an extra $5 million per team for another game. The terms of endearment,
mighty dollar, yeah.
The terms of endearment in life, business, and the bedroom, the boardroom, follow the money trail. That's right. That's just the way it is.
No doubt. I mean, I mean, I think, there's two thoughts on this, and I think we echo it quite a bit. I know I do because I'm from there.
Yeah.
I think the thought that the Big Ten does not play a great brand of football, a physical brand of football, doesn't have speed. Well, you can just look at, how many receivers just from Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State alone are starting on NFL rosters and doing well. And then, you throw in some of the corn-fed big dudes that are up front from your Nebraskas, your Michigan States, your different places like that. But I think because there's always been this north-south divide and things like that. But I think we got to be careful. There's been some changes with NIL and all of the opportunities there. But I think if you're not careful, and maybe I'm wrong, it only takes 1 year for them to expand. And this, I think 16 is perfect. I thought 8 was the perfect number, but they skipped 8 and went to 12. But 16, I think if you go past 16, I think you're starting to get the same situation where those that argue, why am I watching Florida play Long Island? Why am I watching South Carolina State play Clemson? And I think you're going to end up with that same thing because let's say that, and no offense to my brethren, but let's say Miami of Ohio slips in the playoff. They have a hard time filling their home stadium. Yeah. So then what? You got 100 Miami fans that have to go out west and play Oregon in a first round game. I don't see it. I don't see the money in it even.
Well, Eli Drinkwitz talked about it at SEC Media Days in Atlanta, having, was it the 28 or the 30 team? I think that was a little hyperbole and embellishing there, but it's keeping eyeballs nationally on college football. So it's not just a Big Ten and SEC, NFC, North, South, AFC, North, South. I don't want to see that. But I also don't want to see teams in there that have no business. Now, we love Horatio Alger stories in this country, the underdog overcoming the odds, and they do. But if you look at the last 25 national champions, our friend Dave Bartu is on the show Monday mornings, College Football Matrix, talks about all those teams, 23 or 24 of those 25, the top 10 recruiters every year. You got to have the players. And this myth that coordinators can make great quarterbacks. Now, you got to have it as a quarterback. Now, you can make a coordinator look great. But I will say this about the speed in the Big Ten. Jeremiah Smith, he ain't some farm boy from Ohio. He's from Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah,
okay.
No doubt.
I'll tell you, Keontae Lambert-Smith, who transferred from Penn State to Auburn, he's the best receiver on the field last year. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He's from Virginia, from the Tidewater. Okay. Now, Teddy Ginn, remember them? They're from Cleveland. They're from Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Listen, Ohio is it's the fifth best state in America per capita for putting out college football players. They put out about 180 D1 players a year. So I think it's about, with the Big Ten, just trying to one up the SEC, because Greg Sankey, he's the most powerful man in sports, and he's the smartest guy in the room. You're going to know that when you're around him. He says what he thinks. But I do think that Petiti, he just doesn't have the football mind that you have, or, certainly Greg Sankey has. He just doesn't. And he doesn't say things that make sense a lot.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and one thing about Ohio, I tell people, of those top states, they're the only state that does not have what, Rob?
Pro sports. You talk about what?
No, spring football.
Oh, no. I'm talking about high school.
For the high school level, spring football, and you only get 10 coaching days in the summer, Rob. That's it.
For high school.
10.
And the football is that good.
10 coaching days in the summer that you can collectively have your team. And if you have a camp, so to speak, where guys come to camp, those count as coaching days.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Right,
so
I got to get my friend Glenn Rogers on this show with you. Okay. He was at MUS. He just moved to my high school, Christian Brothers High School. And in 2001, MUS, our biggest rival, stopped spring practice. Since then, they won 4 or 5 state championships and 4, runner-up, second place, first loser. And now he's over at CBHS. Glenn Rogers, you would absolutely love this guy. You just proved the point.
Yeah, well, let's just make it happen for sure. But
I will.
We talked about receivers and we kind of mentioned them. I want to bring up a clip where Billy Napier talked about, he was discussing Vernell Browne III and the jump that he's made. But he also talks about, and this will just be a little X and O's before we bring the animal in, and he can talk about it as well, is what makes a good receiver. And this is Billy Napier.
We'll see where we're at next week, who's healthy, but you're going to need depth at that position. Vernell Browne III, I think, is taking full advantage of the opportunities he's gotten. I mean, he's proven to me that he's ready to play. And then others have flashed. We got a lot of guys that flash, but I'm looking for consistency. J. Mike, obviously, is a grown man. He's a pro. And after that, I think we're just kind of evaluating who's healthy and who's available. I think T.J. Abrams has had a good camp. Made a great play in the scrimmage Saturday. I think he's showing to be more consistent. But these other guys have been in and out depending on the day or the week. So time will tell. That's what I would say.
What stands out about Vernell? We know he has the pedigree.
Yeah,
and the legacy, but just in terms of route running, explosiveness.
He plays fast. I think he's an attention to detail guy. Most really elite receivers are consumed with the details. They're OCD. They are very particular about everything. Okay, the great ones that I've coached, they are very particular about how things need to be. And that carries over to how they play. That carries over to how they prepare, their recovery, their note-taking in the meetings. the precision in the routes, the hand selection, the release plan, the top of route separation plan, the football intelligence. I mean, it all adds up. Receiver is a skilled position, okay? We got a lot of guys out here that run really fast for our track team that cannot play receiver. Okay, they're big, but pretty fast. Receiver is a skilled position, okay? And you have to be a true student of the game to be an elite receiver.
And
he has the traits to be an elite receiver because of that.
You said OCD. Is there something that's kind of funny with him, quirky, whether it's his gloves or something?
Yeah, you can just tell when you see them, man. I mean, just take notice of these guys, and if they're sloppy, typically that doesn't carry over.
So there you have it. Billy Napier breaking down, a guy that coached some good ones, Jerry Jeudy and different guys at Alabama, obviously did a great job with Ricky Pearsall Jr. A couple years ago, has a great stable of guys. J. Michael Sturdivant transferring from UCLA, and Vernell Browne III. I mean, somebody who, I think coming in, maybe, Dallas Wilson kind of won the spring.
Yeah.
But Vernell Browne has just stayed the course, and we're going to bring in the animal into the discussion. But, I'm a former receiver, somebody who I think, for a guy that played at the level I played at, tried to be very detailed based. My high school coach told me that, or college coach, so I was the smartest receiver that he ever coached. And, so, I mean, you get those kind of compliments, being attention, being detailed and things like that. So, just being prepared and being available, and I think that he's taking advantage of that. But when you hear those things about a young guy, Rob, I mean, I think that's one of the things that really, I mean, you really get excited about that.
Well, I think, I am OCD, so it makes it easy to do things that I love. Billy Napier, you're talking Jerry Jeudy out of Deerfield Beach, Florida. And I've seen that photograph. Jalen Waddle, Bellevue, Texas. Jerry out of there. Henry Ruggs III out of Montgomery. And
shout out to Ruggs too, man. Keep your head up, Ruggs.
Yeah. And then Devontae Smith out of Amite, Louisiana down there.
Mm-hmm.
Who weighed, 163 pounds. But
still.
Yeah. And I like what Billy Napier just said. And you just said it. There's a lot of fast guys, but they can't cut and run curls. We dismiss athletic ability sometimes, meaning there's no intelligence. These guys are very smart. You cannot survive. You will never make it unless you are cerebral and dedicated to your craft. I mean, you look at a guy that plays 10, 15 years in the NFL, that's a smart guy.
Yeah, no
Very
doubt.
smart.
I think that, I think sometimes, and Napier kind of touched on it, I think a lot of people just think, receivers, it's just about getting, being fast. And, of course, well, if we throw the ball deep, they'll be wide open and we'll score touchdowns.
Sure.
Trust me, as somebody who played the position at least at the college level, is a lot harder than you think. And as I tell my friends all the time who get upset and they're like, man, he should have caught that, or man, how can he not get open? And I'm like, that DB, he practices too.
Yeah.
He's on scholarship too. And there's a reason why. So, I think sometimes people, they think that game and I say that because I think a lot is going to be expected, excuse me, of the Florida receivers, because it has been the focal point. And, there's going to be some growing pains, because of the time that was missed with DJ Lagway. They've been banged up, a little bit, and they're going to depend on, that running game. So, it's going to be key to, make sure that people give them a little grace and let them round into it. For as good as Vernell Browne has been, there, excuse me, some growing pains, as he gets himself, into the offense. I mean, even Coleman last year at Auburn, I mean, great. He's a good one.
Yeah.
But you still, work through it as a young player, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. And we talk about it, the going across the middle and knowing you're going to get popped by a defensive back, a linebacker, whatever. And as athletic as these guys are today, edge rushers that are wandering around out there take your head off. So I'm with you. It is a receivers. People call them divas. No, they got to block. There's a lot of things you got to do to be a receiver in the SEC. Is probably different than it is in a lot of leagues. And then being a running back, they want you to receive. That's the one that's got to do two things. You know, you've got to block and you got to run, and you better be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. So there, man, I like Billy Napier. Look who he's been mentored by, not to mention his father. The guy, I mean, last year people were madder than hell after the Miami and the A&M game. I was one of them. I mean, just saying, what's he doing? And then, you know what? DJ Lagway and Graham Mertz got hurt. I don't wish that on anybody. But DJ Lagway can make you look great as a coach.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm trying to see if we can get the animal and get him in here. But while we wait to do that, you know, it's that time of the week again. And here we go. The kicks of the week. Now, just for you, Rob. Now, just so you know, if you're a true sneakerhead now, tell me you're a sneakerhead without telling me you're a sneakerhead. God. And there we go. The 11 Concords. If you ain't got these in your collection, then you fronting. You're not a true sneakerhead. So those
are good looking.
So so these are they shoot people over these, Rob, not to make light of that, but I'm just saying. So GOAT, StockX, and here's the thing, Rob, and I know you're a Jordan guy.
Yeah.
You see that? I mean, that's you remember the 4 or 5. You know, what's up, Animal?
What is up, brother? I am so honored to be joined by Rob Browne of SEC Sidelines.
Oh, yeah.
It is an honor and a pleasure. Yeah. I got to get you on my show sometime, and we'll talk about that later on.
Oh, yeah.
What's interesting about the shoes is that I found on FloridaGators.com website my own shoe size to get Florida Gator shoes up here in Des Moines. So,
yeah. There you go. You got to get out. We starting next week, we're gonna do some game gear. What I mean, so I'm gonna it's gonna be more Florida centered shoes for the you know what we might be wearing. But you know, Animal of Half Full and a Cup of Joe up there in Iowa, and does a great job every week. Kind of jumps in right when the season goes on, and has some heavy hitters. Follows Arena Ball as well up there. You know, that's huge up there, Rob, because they don't have a pro team per se. So that arena football, but Animal, you know, you're up there in Iowa, and I know you follow the Gators, but you're also close to I guess the SEC's most northernmost school in Missouri. But you know, what are you hearing north of the Mason-Dixon about what this Florida football team could be? Are people talking about, I mean, you're in Big 10, Big 12 country. Is Florida on the radar, or is it still kind of Alabama, LSU? Are people just kind of, you know, not really bullish on the Gators just yet?
Well, first of all, let me just say what an honor and a pleasure it is to be on with you and Rob Browne. It's always a pleasure. And you know, up here in Des Moines, we do have a lot. I'm surprised to see Gator fans with their shirts on. They kind of feel like that this kind of might be the year, but it's mostly, you know, Iowa State kind of deal, which, by the way, they kick off this weekend in London against Kansas State in London. So that's going to kick off college football this weekend. But you do get those few Gator fans who say to themselves, you know, this might be a very good year if the cards, you know, play out the way that they think that they're going to. It's not big up here with the Florida Gators, but you do see some people with the Gator gear on, and you talk to them. It's like, you know, I'm kind of excited, but I'm kind of reserved by the notion that they can actually have a good season, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of excitement about them, and I think that they're ready to play some football. It just piece them all big time that for the third year in a row, we don't get to go to Missouri to see them play at Missouri. I'm so frustrated by that, you know?
Yeah. Well, that was a cool trip. Unfortunately, we didn't get it done, but we got to meet and hang out and do our thing. But so you kick off your show Thursday. You're going to have a certain someone, I think, on as a guest on Thursday.
I'm having you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have you on.
A certain
Rob,
someone.
if you'd like to join me, I would love to.
Anytime.
My honor. I got to get a link from you. I'm on. And can you give me a 1 minute plug real quick?
Yeah, that's what we're here for. Go ahead, man.
Half Full Cup of Joe coming away every Thursday night during the football season. I discuss all things football with the Florida Gators, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm even willing to go outside the box and discuss even Iowa State. But don't bring me the garnet and gold, because I'll certainly throw you out the window when you talk about that garnet and gold team. Make no mistake about it. Every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central Time here on Facebook. I hope you join me. Bring in the conversation. Just don't bring in the dirty words. Is what we like to say. You know.
So with that, with you kicking off your season, what's the one thing on Thursday that as we dive into it yourself? What do you want to take a look at? What intrigues you the most as camp finishes? We're about 2 weeks away, and then you say, okay, where are we?
As you look into this season, I think one of the things that I look into, and a lot of people say, hey, it's about DJ Lagway. It's about this offense. It's going to be so great. It is going to be fantastic. But here's the one thing that people don't talk about that is so important that will make this season a success or failure. Jake Slaughter, the offensive line for the Florida Gators. He's the man that anchors up front on the offensive line. And as Jake Slaughter and Austin Barber goes, so does the Florida Gators offense. And that's going to be the key for this Florida Gator team. But I want to also make one other mention too, is attitude. How do you approach this season? Do you approach it like, oh yeah, we're going to be good. We're going to win 9 games. It's going to be easy as a cupcake. Or do you follow by the motto that we, even as kids, grew up and you take it one game at a time, one play at a time, one series at a time. And by doing that, I think you become more successful that way and thinking that, oh, we got it made. For Billy Napier and company, I think that he finally understands that is the approach that they have to take. He knows he has a good team. It's just a matter of them believing in themselves and taking on the attitude that we take this one game at a time. We don't take Long Island for granted. We're not going to take USF for granted, and they're going to have a pretty good team this year. Make no mistake about it, boys. And then you're going to take on the Miami Hurricanes, who's always a good team. So I think it's about attitude. I think it's about protection. I think it's about just playing with not just within your comfort zone, but a little bit out of that comfort zone. But that's me. I mean, that's
I appreciate it.
That's what I'm taking the.
No, that's a good call out, Buddy Martin. Read Buddy Martin's column on his story on Jake Slaughter in Gator Bait. This past week, really good story. And Rob, blocking out the noise as we finish up. That's what Billy Napier's done. He's preached that from day one. We worry about our grass. We mow our grass. We don't think about anybody else's. And even as confident as he's been, which is a little different than normal, that still remains his edict to his team. Block out the noise. Don't get caught in the madness. And let's just continue to do our work.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be myopically focused on what you do. Animal, that's my nickname from when I was a kid. They called me the Animal. I'll come on your show anytime. I've been to Des Moines many times. We pheasant hunt in Mount Airy, Iowa. We go up to Chamberlain, South Dakota. And I will tell you this, back in the late 90s, we started going there in 97. When we were out in the field walking 15 miles a day in the switchgrass, those folks all watched SEC football. And it was unbelievable how much they knew. I was like, no, they didn't know more than me, but they knew a lot. And I'm telling you, I'm talking people. They said we watched the delayed games, and there was a high school coach I met in Mount Air out at dinner, and he watched all the SEC coaches to learn how to coach, and he was a very successful coach in Iowa. This is a blast because you're as wound up as I am.
Oh, hey, look! I'm
love
listen.
this.
I'm one of the more. I am one of the more diehard fans. You look to the back of me. You see my Buccaneers sign back there, but you also see my Florida Gator jersey. I'm wearing my Florida Gator shirt, wearing my Florida Gator hat. Don't have my Florida Gator headphones, but I'm getting my Florida Gator shoes shortly. Hopefully, they're coming soon. So I'm about as diehard as they come. And I'll tell you a real quick story, Rob. My first time I ever went to a Florida Gator game, it was back in 2008. You know which game it was? The game in which Tim Tebow lost and gave the famous speech. And I was so down after that game. I'm walking out of the stadium not knowing that Tebow didn't give this speech till a few hours later, which projected them to go on and win. And we know all that story was happening now. But, I mean, to see the Florida Gators, I mean, that was exciting. And when I went to Missouri a couple of years ago to watch them play, Loren was up there and everything. You'd be surprised after traveling that the people that travel to watch the Florida Gators. I mean, they got a good traveling. They travel very well. So I was very impressed with that.
Yeah, no doubt. And Brenden chimed in. He was there in person in the press room when Tebow made the speech. And if you ever at the Swamp, you go right there to the side of what used to be, I guess it's still the Hefner Gallery there, where they have some of the trophies for the recruits when they come in. There's a plaque there that has that speech, the promise. So,
you know
it's definitely.
You know what was funny is that last year I came back home for Christmas, and we stopped by and drove by the University of Florida, tried to get in to get a tour of the facilities. No, you're not welcome. We can't allow tours.
Well, let me work on that. I might can help you the next time. But
thank you.
We'll do that for sure. Rob, who you got on your show tomorrow?
Give him my number.
I got
Lauren.
you.
I'll come on anytime. All right, we got in the morning Jake Wimberly, The Drive in Jackson, Mississippi, the football numbers matrix. Jason Caldwell from Auburn talking about Auburn's had a hell of a summer, picked up 7 national titles, but Alabama picked up 5 in the summer of '83. Yeah. So I digress. But Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net in Fayetteville, Vince Ferrara on the Hill in Knoxville, and we got the best executive producer and the best audience of people in the world, Brendan Martin. And Animal, love your enthusiasm. I love this guy. I love the name.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Tell us about your first show of the season.
All right, coming up on this Thursday's edition of the Animal Football Insider, we kick off the season with Loren Meadows, the host of the Lowdown, is going to join me. We're going to try and get Rob Browne to join me. We'll see what happens with that. Of course, we all you guys that like Nat Blaylock, who's watching. Hi, Nat. And hopefully we can talk a little bit about Buccaneers as they get ready for preseason game number 3. 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Central Time. Join me. We're going to have a lot of fun. And I don't do like a timesheet or anything like that. I just go on, let it flow, and hopefully we can have a good show. But Rob, I look at your number so we can get in contact because I work during the day, but I have my computer on the side. I see you on there, so not able to watch the show, but you bring a lot of excitement to the SEC. So I want to ask you one question though.
Well, we gotta go. You ask him on Thursday, but no, we appreciate Graham Hall of Swamp 247 joining us. Animal of the Half Full Cup of Joe Animal Insider. My man Rob Browne, as always, host of SEC Sidelines, and I'm your host Loren Meadows. The Lowdown with Loren Meadows. Appreciate you joining us. We'll be back next week, recording live from somewhere. Have a good night.